You know, birthdays used to mean so much to me, not because of the cake or the candles or the cards, but because it was the one day I'd get to see my family all together. The laughter, the noise, the hugs, that's what I loved most. But this year was different. This year, I woke up to silence. No phone calls, no texts, no knock at the door. Just me and an empty house. I tried to tell myself, maybe they're planning a surprise. You know how grandmas are. We always hope. But as the hours passed, that hope started to fade. It was my 78th birthday. The morning sunlight was coming through the curtains, painting golden stripes on the kitchen floor. I made myself a cup of tea, chamomile, the way I always do, and sat by the window. My phone sat on the table next to me, face up, waiting. Every few minutes, I'd glance at it, waiting for it to light up. It didn't. My daughter had called 2 days earlier saying she might be busy with work. My grandson, Tyler, he usually calls first thing in the morning. He's my favorite person in the world. He never forgets. Last year, he baked me a cake himself from scratch. So I kept waiting. By noon, I started to wonder if maybe he had forgotten. I told myself not to take it personally. He's 24 now, busy with his life, college, job, friends. I remember being that age. Time just slips away from you. Still, it hurt. I tried to distract myself. I cleaned the living room twice. I watered my plants, even the ones that didn't need it. I turned on the TV just for the noise, but every channel seemed to be talking about love, family, and togetherness. It felt like the universe was mocking me. At one point, I started laughing. Then I realized I was laughing alone, and that made me cry. You know that feeling when your chest gets heavy and you tell yourself not to cry because it's silly? Because it's just a birthday. But the truth is, it's not just about the day, it's about the people you wish were there. And in that moment, I wished for one thing, for my grandson to remember me. Around 3 p.m., there was a knock at my door. My heart jumped. I thought, ooh, maybe it's Tyler. I quickly wiped my face, fixed my hair, and opened the door. But it wasn't him. It was a young man, probably in his 20s, wearing a delivery uniform. He smiled and said, "Package from Mrs. Harris?" I nodded, confused. I hadn't ordered anything. He handed me a small box wrapped neatly with a blue ribbon. No sender's name, just a note that said, "Don't open until 6 p.m. I asked him who it was from, and he just smiled and said, "Ma'am, I think you'll find out soon enough." The next 3 hours felt like forever. I kept staring at that box on the table. I tried to do other things. I made soup. I turned on a movie. I even took out my knitting. But every few minutes, I'd look at the clock. 5:30, 5:45, 5:55. When the clock finally struck 6, I couldn't wait any longer. I untied the ribbon, carefully opened the lid, and inside was a small envelope. In neat handwriting, it said, "Turn on Channel 9 at 6:10. I laughed out loud. Channel 9? That's the local news station. What in the world was my grandson up to? At exactly 6:10, I turned on Channel 9. The anchor was talking about local community stories, the kind of feel-good segment they do at the end of the show. Then she said, "And finally tonight, a story that's sure to warm your heart. A young man has gone above and beyond to honor his grandma in the most unexpected way." My heart skipped a beat. They showed a video clip, and there he was, my Tyler, standing in front of a newly painted building, smiling nervously into the camera. The reporter asked, "So, tell us, why did you do this?" And Tyler said, his voice shaking a little, "My grandma, Mary Harris, has always been there for me. She raised me after my parents split up. She made me breakfast every morning before school, and she taught me what kindness really means. Today's her birthday, and I wanted to do something that would make her proud, something that would keep giving back, just like she does." I felt my hand go to my mouth. The camera panned out, showing a big, bright sign above the building that read, "Mary's Haven, free meals for seniors." I couldn't breathe for a second. He named it after me. The reporter continued, saying that Tyler had been saving for 2 years, working part-time jobs and getting sponsors to open a small community kitchen that would serve free hot meals to elderly people in need. And he launched it on my birthday. I sat there, frozen, watching my grandson on the TV. He looked so grown up, so confident, so much like his grandfather. Kind eyes, that same proud smile. And then the camera cut to him holding a microphone. "Grandma," he said, "I know you're watching. Happy birthday. I couldn't be there today because we've been setting up all week. But this is your gift. Everything I am, everything I've learned is because of you. I love you." That's when I broke. The tears came before I even knew it. Not sad tears, but the kind that fill every corner of your heart. I pressed my hand against the screen and whispered, "I love you too, sweetheart." And then my phone lit up. Incoming call, Tyler. I answered so fast I almost dropped it. "Grandma?" he said. "Did you see it?" I couldn't speak for a moment. I was too choked up. Finally, I managed to say, "Yes, I saw it. Oh, Tyler, you didn't have to do all that for me." He laughed softly. "I wanted to. You always told me that the best way to celebrate is to give something to others. So I thought, why not make that your birthday present?" I asked him how long he'd been planning it. He said, 2 years. Every time I came over and you'd feed the neighbors or send food to Mrs. Green down the street, I thought, what if more people could feel that kind of love? So I started saving, got my friends to help, and found sponsors. It wasn't easy, Grandma, but today, seeing your name up there, it was worth everything. I was crying again. He said, "Don't cry, Grandma. You'll make me cry too." We both laughed. The next morning, Tyler came over to pick me up. He said, "Come on, Grandma, I've got somewhere to take you." When we arrived at Mary's Haven, there was a crowd of people. Seniors chatting, volunteers serving soup, kids handing out bread. And there it was, painted in soft blue letters, Mary's Haven, where every plate has a story. I couldn't stop smiling. I met the volunteers, hugged strangers, and watched as people enjoyed their meals, all because of something my grandson built. One woman came up to me and said, "Are you the Mary, the one from the sign?" I laughed and nodded. She smiled and said, "You raised a good one." And I thought, yes, I did. That night, as I sat in my favorite chair, I realized something. I had spent the whole morning thinking my family forgot me, but all along my grandson was planning something bigger than I ever imagined. Sometimes love doesn't come as a phone call or a cake. Sometimes it comes in the form of a legacy, something that lives on even when we're gone. Tyler came by that evening and gave me a small cupcake with one candle. He said, "You still have to make a wish, Grandma." So I closed my eyes, smiled, and said, "I already got mine." A year later, I visited Mary's Haven again. It had grown. There were more tables, more volunteers, and a wall covered in photos. Pictures of smiling faces, handwritten thank you notes, and one big framed picture of me and Tyler cutting a ribbon together. The reporter came again for a follow-up story. And she asked me, "Mrs. Harris, what does this place mean to you?" I said, "It means that love doesn't have to be loud to be heard. It can whisper through the lives it touches, through every meal shared, every smile given. And it started with a boy who didn't forget his grandmother's birthday. He just had a bigger way of saying it." Sometimes I still think about that morning, how lonely it felt, how quiet the house was. And now, every time I hear laughter coming from Mary's Haven, I think, that's the sound of love echoing back. So if you're watching this and you feel forgotten, don't lose hope. Sometimes the people who love you are just busy building something beautiful for you, something you can't see yet. Because love, real love, always finds its way home.